unless you are a top team, like an actual consistent top team, it's just so worrying for an org to want to stay in this esport. They're making it harder for players. Like, even though they're paying out the top 128 players, which I could see as a positive, and I honestly, I do see it as a positive that they're paying out the top 128 as long as the payments actually go through. That's great. All the other changes are like making it unsustainable for players to actually even have a chance to make the major. Like, sure, I can compete now as with Turbo's Cheeks, and I can get $400 throughout 6 weeks because I played in 3 qualifiers, right? That's great. That's fantastic for me. But I have no chance of making a major. I won $400. The players who actually have a chance to make a major and like actually keep the C-sport alive are not able to get orgs because of everything that they've done to make it unsustainable for an org to want to stay. Serious question, but what does an org provide that the players can't handle themselves? If there were no orgs in RLCS, you would instantly probably see half the players quit because they can't sustain their lives because orgs pay them their salary. Players aren't making it, like, unless you're like Zen, you're not making a living off of prize pools. So if you go through and win every, what are the prize payouts for the regionals? So it's 21K. 21K is pretty nice. So there's 6 throughout the season. Okay, so if you go through, this is over the course of 7 months. So I would say this is a great amount of money, right? If there's no orgs exist. This is a great amount of money. If you go through and you win every regional, by the way, win every regional, NA and EU, then you go and win every major. Then you go and win the World Championships. You win $200,000 as an individual. That's great. But you also got to keep in mind the likelihood of that, of getting the $200,000. If you're getting top 4s in all these, that number cuts significantly. If you go and get top 4 in a regional, every regional, by the way, all 6 of them, and then you go top 4 at the major, both of them, and then you get top 4 at Worlds, you end up making about 60K. Still a good amount of money, right? Still pretty good, but the likelihood of it, like, that's probably going to happen to like 6 players this season. I make 63K a year. What's wrong with that? I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think 63K a year is pretty good. But what I'm saying is, unless you just love it and you're playing for the passion of the game, it's pretty dangerous to hold your whole career and hold your whole livelihood in Rocket League esports for 63K. But as a kid, it's legit. Again, this is only happening to like 6 people, but yeah. You're right. As a kid, it's great. I'm not going to deny that. That is awesome. Think about how many people are getting top 4 every single event. Every regional, every major in Worlds are making 63K. Vatira. That's good. You named 1. Now think about the other 100 something that compete every weekend that you watch. That's it. Just Vatira. Yeah, just Vatira. Not even his teammates. Just Vatira. Doesn't the org take a percentage of event wins? Depends on the org. Not every org does it. But yeah, I mean, an org could also have a cut. So imagine you're 63K. Your org takes a little bit of a cut. Maybe it's 0%. Maybe it's 15%. Anything higher than that, you're probably getting scammed. By the way, any players who might be watching this. And then you gotta pay taxes as well, of course. Bro, I can't believe Energy got reverse swept twice, bro. What even happened in the first series, too? They won the second game. Oh. Is anybody else actually sad? I feel like I'm actually sad. Their season is probably over for the most part. Nah, actually, probably not, to be fair. You could always just come back. You could always make a move and then just become the top 4 team, make the major, go through crazy, make Worlds. I mean, if you don't make the first major, it's so ridiculously hard to make Worlds. And also for Rebellion. I feel really bad for Rebellion, actually. I followed Jeremy. But he's one of the Shopify founders, and he made a tweet the other day about like basically the format makes it like very hard to want to stay committed to RLCS because there's nothing that keeps any team safe. And so as an org wanting to spend money on your game, this is what happened when they lost the qualifier 2 weeks ago or whatever. Complaining about the RLCS format after we had the worst single day performance since we entered Rocket League is pretty lame. We were bad, teams were good, they move on, we don't, it's fair. He's saying the format's like not necessarily a bad thing, it's pretty lame to complain about it right after you lose, but then he says, but when you combine the impact of one bad day and how it cascades across the rest of the year, to be fair, now it's 2 bad days, the issues with Blast, you know, lack of communication, admins, and the lack of esports team at Epic, yeah, it makes it pretty difficult to invest over long-term Rocket League. It's sad, but because I love this game, like this guy, wait, what is he? He's a founder? Is that what it was? Yeah, founder of Shopify Rebels. He's, you know, he still works there. All this stuff, does a bunch of stuff for them. He's super active too, and he loves gaming. I don't know. I just like, it feels weird because I feel bad for the poor orgs. Oh, the poor millionaire orgs. No, I'm kidding, kind of. But like, I do feel bad for the orgs because I feel bad for the orgs because it makes me feel bad for the like players. Because if the orgs don't want to be in, then the players just get fucked. So that's what I keep thinking of. Because if the orgs don't want to be here, the players won't get paid. and then the players can't sustain this, and then the players can't play. Like your favorite players, once they realize that like the money's not here anymore because the orgs aren't paying, like nobody. We did the math earlier. If you get top 4 every regional, every major, and then worlds, top 4 at each one, just top 4, top 4, top 4, top 4, you can get $63,000 a year. So now imagine that without the sustainability of orgs. Now I'm not saying $63,000 a year is bad. It's actually very good. But when you think about like the sustainability of you being a Rocket League esports pro and like the risk you are taking basically in your life of having no additional skills in your life to become a Rocket League pro that doesn't transition into anything or no life skills, yeah, it's pretty shitty because the idea is that you're making more than that to kind of give yourself a head start to be able to kind of take a step back and then gain some life skills and then go to whatever you need to do. That's why that made me sad. It's not just a loss to me. Though I don't see it as just a loss. Rizzo showing empathy for millionaires while he's in solitary. Yeah, I'm just saying if the orgs disappear, then you just have a bunch of people with a hobby. You don't have esports players anymore. You don't have pros anymore. You have hobby enjoyers. Can't believe they let you work in prison. Unfortunately, these are the working conditions at Moist Esports. I'm kidding. Please don't fire me. Let me just say right off the bat, I am joking. I would like to keep my job, actually. Yeah, that'd be good. If you guys didn't see, there's a lawsuit going on, or it's I don't know the legal terms, but there's a lawsuit in progress happening versus Activision. Hex, who I don't know if he's still with Optic. I have no idea. But he was a big part of Optic. He was the owner of Optic. But Hex and Scump are like proposing a lawsuit and to Activision. So it's trying to sue Activision for, I believe, potential damages of up to, I think, $120 million. I mean, it's not a huge lawsuit for Activision, but it's a big lawsuit in terms of esports, I would say. I read through this is basically the cliff notes, and they're also apparently they're suing in the state of California, which some people said was a great idea for this sort of lawsuit. I don't know. I know the whole legality of suing in certain states and stuff, but regardless, I think because California has a lot of like Hollywood laws that it's probably a good choice. That's probably mainly the reason why. Hex and Scump are alleging that these agreements are anti-competitive, contain provisions that restrain trade, restrictions of the 12-team league in the way of sponsors that teams are allowed to have, commercialized gameplay other than the official Activision League's gameplay not being allowed to be conducted by teams, the fact that the players' agreement prevents players from holding several streaming deals, Activision hold the right to blah, blah, blah. Basically what it's saying is, I actually heard about this like 3 years ago or something, that like Scump had to deny, I don't know about streaming deals, but he had to deny like a Raid Shadow Legends sponsorship, and everybody knows those pay out the ass most times. So it's like he had to deny certain sponsorships because it was like against Activision. Like Activision needs to approve the sponsorships of the players in the league, even if it's not pertaining to the league at all, right? Like him doing a stream for another game, and this is any player, by the way, him doing a stream for another game, whether it's Raid Shadow Legends or a new game like Helldivers or whatever, it doesn't even matter. Activision's not going to allow it to happen because it's not Call of Duty. And so he's not allowed to take those deals. People weren't allowed to take streaming deals, apparently, because I believe Activision had their league sold to, was it YouTube? I can't remember. They had their league, basically. They gave the streaming rights to another company, and streamers themselves couldn't get streaming deals from other platforms. Basically prevented them from making a bunch of money, essentially, which would be extremely shitty in any situation. Nobody wants to, don't fuck with people's money, basically. The other thing that they're saying in this is that the consent to these agreements were obtained under duress and in unfavorable conditions of fear from being excluded from the market, where Scump was made to sign the players agreement 3 days before the CDL inaugurated and was told he would not be allowed to play if he failed to sign right then. So basically, you know, he's getting a contract that essentially says sign this or you're fucked. Like, you're not going to be in the league, right? You have no other opportunity to be in the league unless you sign this right now. You have 3 days, right? It's under duress. You're being put in a horrible position. It's like, well, okay, I kind of have to do that. It's a negotiation tactic, some would say, but you know, when you're suing, I don't think you would label that as a negotiation tactic. I don't think Activision would label that as a negotiation. Hex further alleges that Activision only allowed him to partner with billionaire investor deemed acceptable by Activision, which this is insane to me. They were being specific on which investors that organizations could choose to have in their league. So basically, Activision had to approve the investors who could give them money to be able to buy the spot. I'm not gonna act like it was done in this way, but it could be done in a way to where like Activision could only accept or allow their friends to be the investor, the fucking friends or, business partners, I guess is a better way to put it, of the league, right? Only their business partners could be investors in the league, so they're going to accept them rather than, others or people that Hex actually wanted to work with. So whoever Activision approved, that's who Hex can get the money from. And it is claimed that Hex would not have partnered with certain investors if not necessary, and would have not signed the team participation agreement if the duress being excluded from the market. Again, basically sign this or you're not going to be in the spot. Excluded from the market, professional COD competition was absent. Hex claims that Activision withheld consent to sell the LA franchise spot to him after he reacquired the Optic brand. And then they're talking about a monopoly as well. Basically, this part essentially says that Activision holds a monopoly on Call of Duty tournaments, which it's kind of an odd one to argue because Activision is the sole owner of the game. It's like if Epic Games was like, only RLCS exists and we're not going to allow other tournament partners to ever host another tournament. It's a little bit different because this is a franchise league. The damages is the interesting part. Hex claims damages to an amount proved at trial, but exceeding $100 million. Now, just because he's suing for $100 million does not mean he is actively looking for $100 million. Usually what happens in these situations is you sue for X amount of money and you hope for a settlement that is, well, hopefully that amount, but you're probably getting a settlement much lower, and they might be hoping for some sort of settlement. I have no idea, but he claims damages proving 100 million troubled, shown to be the private market valuation of Optic at the time said allegations occurred. So Scump claims damages exceeding $20 million. Valued through allegations of imposition of competitive balance tax that suppresses player wages and agreements which restricted to procure sponsorship. So again, the sponsorships thing, Scump is essentially saying that he has lost up to $20 million in player wages and the agreements that restricted him to get sponsors. A lawsuit totaling of up to $120 million in damages. Maybe it actually goes to court. Maybe they settle, but I actually read the comments about this, and the comment actually provided great context. This says, a summary, the league is probably going away next year, so teams want to get their money back as much as possible. If the league dies next year, Activision legally won't be entitled to pay anyone anything back. So they want to get the money before the league ceases to exist. If the league just closes its doors, nobody's owed anything. But since the league is still open for possibly one more year, people, or Hex and Scump, are probably doing this lawsuit because it is still open now. And then somebody said, didn't Overwatch League teams do the same thing? This guy says, the league was still ongoing. Activision put forth an updated operating agreement to the teams, and the teams could either sign the operating agreement to continue the league, likely with zero support from Activision. So basically, you guys can run the league on your own. This is what it sounds like. Or you can terminate the league and each team gets paid out $6 million. So every team, well, maybe not every team, but I think a majority, I'm remembering this, a majority of the teams chose to just terminate the league. It might have been all of them. They're probably hoping for some sort of settlement similar to this. I think that's the end goal for Activision. I don't think, I think it's because the league is actually and actively dying and probably going away next year that these teams are basically trying to recoup some of the losses. And the Hex and Scump leading the charge is probably a good thing in the sense that the other orgs, one, may likely get involved in this, and then they also might get some sort of payout because of this. It might be a similar thing to the Overwatch League.